Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. Each episode will bring you in-depth discussion with experts, community leaders, and analysts who will share their insights, experiences, and predictions. From local elections to global diplomacy, we'll provide you with the tools and perspectives you'll need to navigate today's real-world landscape. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or this podcast. This podcast is an independent production and is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by any organization unless explicitly stated.
Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. I'm Lisa Chafee.
And Josh C. still here.
And I'm Michael Nash.
So, gentlemen, you know that for the past few years, one of my biggest passions is exposing the bad things that are happening in our schools. And I've had many employees from here in Hilliard reach out to me begging for help because they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of losing their jobs. We've gone to board members who are currently no longer serving, Zach Vorst being one of them, who repeatedly tried to get the superintendent to do something about this, and nothing's getting done. And there's some serious stuff going on in these schools. So we are starting a special series tonight exposing not just Hilliard schools, but it's going to be other districts. And we have a former employee who's worked in the district many years prior to leaving recently, who's willing to share her experiences and what she witnessed. Janet, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I know we've got a lot of info that we can cover that's going to fill up several episodes.
Yes, we do.
What I'd like to start with is the year before last, so it would have been 24-25 school year. The first couple of weeks of school, Hilliard Davidson, you told me, had 9 gun threats.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
I just don't even know where to begin. First off, let me state that parents need to understand that this isn't back in the days when they went to school, the good old days, and the safe place to send your students or your children. Those days are gone. It is probably one of the most unsafe places you can ever send your child. I say that with gut-wrenching emotion. It is unsafe across the board because the chaos, the negative environments, the toxic environments, the indoctrination, the violence, the drugs, all of that is completely ignored. Completely ignored. And the year we had, that year that you're speaking of, we had 9 gun threats in less than 2 weeks. They weren't taken seriously whatsoever. Even the one incident where a weapon was removed from a student, nothing was done to that student. You have a student who's bringing in a weapon and then even questioned on why did you bring this weapon? What were you going to do with this weapon? And they admit that they were going to use it. They were going to use it and they were going to cause harm, fatal harm. This student was lucky if he only got maybe 2 days out of school, and then he gets to come back. Nothing was taken seriously. They did not press charges. Some of these incidents are not reported to our SROs, and that's very frightening. Very frightening.
So let's backtrack a little bit. School policy, and I've got the board policy pulled up in front of me. Student conduct, 0 tolerance. That is policy JFC. And that if a student fails to comply with established school rules or with any reasonable request made by school personnel on school property or at school-related events, is subject to approved student discipline regulations. So there's number one. So, and then the other one, where is it? What's the process? So when a student is found to have made a threat or is found to have a weapon, what should happen?
The handbook under the zero tolerance, there should be emergency removal, which sometimes that doesn't even happen. Sometimes the student is sent back to the classroom, or, sent to a detention room, which should not be another staff member's responsibility. They have shown that they're going to be violent or could perform something violent, and it's just completely dismissed. Then they're supposed to be emergency removed with 10 days suspension with rec for expulsion. And let me tell you, suspension and expulsion are two different things in the handbook. They will report to maybe another staff member, teacher, whoever, and say, oh, don't worry, that student was expelled, the expulsion hearing. That's not what they're doing. They are still only suspending for a short amount of days. Expulsions are supposed to be calendar year from the time of the incident. They're not doing that. And they're not even consistent with the days that each person gets, depending on what they've done or what they've brought to school.
Can I ask you what, when pressed, and we can get into this further, but as a father of 3 children, a wife of a chemistry and physics teacher, the husband. My family is in school, period. That's the 4 people I live for on this planet. My wife, my 3 children go to school. Now, luckily, they go to a fabulous, wonderful district. And my wife is well respected in the district and has 25 years in the district. But if there was an issue such as that, where I know my loved ones are potentially lives, that I could get the phone call that every father, every husband in the world just lays awake at night crying, begging to God, please don't ever let me get that phone call. When pressed, how does an administration react when you used to go to them, or any one of your former colleagues used to go to them? This is serious. What's going on? What's being done? What seemed to be the common theme in their response as to why their reaction was so pussyfoot, smack on the wrist kind of a thing? What is that? Because don't they have got to have loved ones in school too?
Well, to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is still politically driven. It's the how dare you discriminate. And this could be a white student that has come in with this gun, but they will find a way to make the staff member feel like, oh, how dare you? Like, are you discriminating against this child? This poor student, has a horrible home life, or they've got 1,000,001 excuses for this behavior. So we want to protect the one violent child and forget the 1,700 that are in the building behaving properly. They don't want to communicate. They want us away. They don't want us writing up students for discipline. They don't want to deal with these things. It literally, it's mind blowing how bad it is ignored and swept under the rug. There's just no, they don't even want to talk about a protocol. They don't want to discuss the handbook. They don't even, most of the time, even want to talk to the staff if a situation happens where they've witnessed it and brought a student down or anything.
Just a follow up on that. Just hearing your story, and this is just one school in one district, but all these stories you hear about, whether it's Parkland or whatever, pick your whatever horrific, tragic event. And this is, I'm not trying to politicize the death of children. That's not what I'm doing. But it's always like, oh, if there was only any warning signs, if there was only any red flags. What other warning sign more directly can you get than a student bringing a firearm to school saying, I was going to use it, I wanted to use it, I had a target on who I was going to use it. And then if we were to, turn on CNN and all of a sudden Hilliard, Ohio, boom, whatever, Davidson is, the helicopters are circling around, there was a mass shooting, and then it's just, we don't understand, how could this happen here? There was no... This is the ultimate red flag. The threat can get no more direct than with the situation you just described to us.
They justify that stuff in their head. We are not teaching these students any coping skills at all. They don't know how to cope with things. We don't tell them the truth in the education buildings. We make excuses and apologize and discriminate. I mean, it's blatant discrimination depending on who's coming in. They don't want the public to know. They would rather hide it, cover it up. This didn't happen today. You keep your mouth quiet. We're not dealing with this. We don't want to deal with this. And then if something bad happens, every parent gets that email that, today there was an incident that happened. And we want you to know that we have the utmost sincere hearts and concern and care for your student. And we had no idea that these things were going on. We had no idea about this incident. This is the cover-up letter that every parent gets probably 4 to 5 times a year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I do know recently, within the last month of school, Weaver Middle School had a student bring a gun and was there all day with it. It wasn't, if I'm not, tell me if I'm wrong.
You are not wrong.
The email that went out to parents didn't say it was a gun. They just said it was a weapon.
They wouldn't even.
Nope.
Okay. A toenail clippers can be a weapon,
Exactly.
but they're going to do a hell of a lot less damage than a Glock 9mm.
So I want to get into some specifics on a couple of incidents that you told me about. The one that sticks out in my mind, there's two that stick out in my mind. One is with a Venezuelan student who threatened to have his cartel family come shoot up the school. Tell us about that one.
Well, first off, if anyone thinks these students are not recording 24/7, you are horribly mistaken. And so a lot of things that happen at school, whether it's in the building, out of the building, at a school event, whatever, these kids are recording everything. And they want to cover things up and hush hush. But that video or Snapchat, text, whatever it is, whatever social media platform, that has been sent out in less than 3 seconds flat. So I don't understand why they want to continue to cover up all of this stuff. But that student who did that recorded it and also had pictures with 9mm and ARs and all of these things and threatens another student. And the phone numbers where he is threatening this other student are his phone numbers. But when it was taken, when the student took it to complain and was concerned, they just, well, you can't prove that it's him in the videos. You can't prove that he sent this to you. And everybody, and the entire staff was like, we've all seen all this. We know who it is. And guess what? When you call that phone number, guess who's going to answer? You know?
It's going to be him.
Correct.
But so what, he magically he sent them from another but you call his phone and it comes back to him. I'm only laughing because sometimes you have to laugh at the absurd. And maybe it's a defense mechanism for how uncomfortable that makes me, that even with his number right there, they're going to say you can't prove it. Can I ask you just straight up, and this isn't to, we're not going to go down this road of vilifying any one particular person, or if he wasn't Venezuelan, do you think they would have gone out of their way, or is there an incentive there to be like, oh, we're a very welcoming, open, all migrants welcome school district and yada, 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 the whole bleeding heart spiel?
That is a huge part of it. Okay. Which that's a whole nother can of worms that is ruining schools, districts. We have way too many non-citizens, way too many, that are absolutely bringing in the gangs, the drugs, the violence. But at this point, I don't think it would matter too much, really, who even brings it in. So I don't have a good answer on that as far as everything I've witnessed over all of these years. They just don't want the public to know anything. So they want the parents to hush hush. They want the staff to hush hush, because we want that A++ banner hanging outside of our school.
Now, so these same kids, though, we know they're non-citizens. Are how do you track them if they bounce from district to district, so you know whose disciplinary record stands? Like, okay, so-and-so did this in say, Southwest City Schools. They end up in, say, a Dublin. But if they're a non-citizen, is there a way of tracking their record and their history and any, threats or any history of violence they've already committed in a previous school?
Through the school, yes. Well, it's supposed to be documented. That's a state law requirement for administrators to document incidents of any kind. Do they do a great job at that? No, they don't. Do they complete the forms like they're supposed to? No, they don't. Are they being instructed to not do that? I don't know. But I know
You know what?
When you go to another school, those transcripts go with you. So those records are in there, but it doesn't show what has happened to them.
Are those records public record?
No, because they are juveniles.
The only way the public would find out anything, and I send records requests frequently, is if there's any emails between staff or parents to the board, parents to staff, about a specific incident. then I can do a records request, or you or Mary Jo down the street can say, I'm requesting all emails, texts regarding this incident that happened on this day. And if there's anything in email, they're supposed to send it, but they will black out a juvenile's name.
Okay.
So there was another incident recently, maybe the same school year. There was a fight, and in the video I've shared it on Facebook. The fight's occurring. A staff member gets involved. A knife falls out of the kid's pocket, goes flying across the floor. One of the staff members got punched, wanted to press charges against that student, and the district told that teacher they were not allowed to do that. Do you have that? Do you know about that incident? And how is it that the district gets away with controlling these staff members to not come forward with this stuff?
So that incident was at one of the other high schools. And just like I said before, saw it probably on video while it was still even occurring, because these kids can't help themselves and want to be the first one to post even the most violent stuff. They are very good at bringing people in from the big office to talk to staff or talk down to staff. You feel intimidated and almost threatened, like it's probably not a good idea to press charges because, we don't know where that'll take us. And you can read, we're all adults. You can read body language. You can read between the lines. Like I said, any request you send through the schools, no matter what it is not going to be the truth. You are not going to get the truth of them. You are going to get a incredibly rewritten, censored version.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned before threats. Excuse me. You mentioned before threats. What kind of threats would they issue to staff for their silence, or what kind of threats do they normally use, or what kind of language, or how do they control the situation with staff? Is it a threatening of disciplinary actions or a job, or how does that come across?
All of the above. I have heard from many staff members over the years, blatant, we will fire you. Like, if you don't like it here and conform to our ways, you won't work here.
Where are the teachers' unions in this? Because you would think the unions would have their members back. If a member says, one of my students brought a gun, one of my students brought a knife, I was attacked by one of my students, you would think that the union would back the due-paying member up and say, hey, school district, no, this is bullcrap. My member is feeling threatened by a student. What are you going to do about it?
You would think that the union would step up and help out. You would think that the union is going to protect the staff. You would think a lot of things what the union is supposed to do. There is a lot that the union does not do. They do, how do I phrase that? Not more than they do more, if that makes sense.
So the current union leadership in Hilliard is the very same woman who brought in those god-awful, I'm here, safe person, safe base badges.
That was her.
That is her. She is still there, and she is at Davidson. You've got a culture, and correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, in Davidson that is dominated. It is the worst in the district by the leftist woke ideology that all white straight people are bad, that all LGBTQ are privileged and are given preferential treatment, followed by people of color.
Correct.
It's that bad.
Sorry, I'm getting a little white knuckled over here just thinking about it.
Hypothetically speaking, a student makes a threat. What procedure should be followed?
They should be taken down to an administrator. An administrator should go get the SRO, who is the only person in the building who is the law enforcer. Then the officer will talk to all parties involved. He will make that judgment call. But if the threat is heard by others or seen by others, and that could be hand gestures or, through text, snap, whatever, written form, that is instant discipline. Should be. I would say 10 out of 10, that student would probably be sent back to the classroom if the SRO was not involved, which is what they do a lot.
So they actually will hide these incidents from the school resource officer, from the cop in the building, so that don't let Officer whatever Jones know, because then he'll have to make an incident report, and then oh precious, think about the impact on them and their little community. And so that's where that process and that thinking is. So we're even going to lie or hide, maybe not lie. We're not going to do what we should do and take this to a law enforcement officer that is in our own damn building.
Correct. They will not inform him or her as much as they possibly can get away with. Now, where that comes back and bites them is staff members have told me incidents where they've been in the office and a parent comes in and is demanding to see that SRO. Like, I want to talk to you now. This person assaulted my son or daughter, and they send, the secretary has no clue, sends him to the officer's office, and he's like, what are you talking about? How embarrassing is that? He has, he will just be like, you need to explain to me what happened. No one informed me. No one, and that doesn't look good.
Well, so out of all this, I'm curious. Nowadays, there's cameras everywhere. I'm sure there's got to be surveillance in the schools, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So help me understand where these surveillance tapes or recordings and all that kind of stuff come into play with showing proof.
Well, the officer, if the camera is working that day, he can go back and watch, which has been very helpful, because if he's not getting the truth from our administration team, he can go back and look at these cameras and do his job, and then help the parents, which most of the time they want to pursue charges, which is why they're not telling the law enforcement, because the charges lead to public record. So those cameras are huge, but someone would have to verify this for me. The cameras used to be able to, you could go and ask him to look, like someone hit my car in the back lot, and I asked him, hey, I forgot to ask you this a couple weeks ago. Can you go back to the cameras? And he was able to do that. Well, then it wasn't too long ago, we had an incident out in the parking lot, and it happened like on a Thursday or Friday, and that student came in on Monday realizing what would happen. Well, now he can't go far back in the cameras. Why are we changing that?
So I heard two things there. I heard if the cameras are working, and then I heard that there is some sort of weird reduction in the recording of the retention of the cameras recording. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
So I can verify that not this school year we just finished, but the year before, I found out after requesting video footage of a specific incident is when they changed the retention time from at least 30 days down to 15 days. And not only that, something I want to stress too, and it's going to come up, the SRO officer. Why aren't they speaking up? I know from a board member that the SRO officer has been ordered by the chief of police to not discuss anything that happens in the building with anybody, including the board members.
I'm sorry. I feel like I woke up in Bass Ackwards land.
Exactly.
Gosh.
So we're out of time now, Janet. Thank you for having the courage to come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
indeed.
greatly appreciated. There's more. There's so much more information that's
lot to
happening that we
unpack.
want to talk to you about, but we don't want to bombard everybody in one episode. We want to take the time to digest it and unpack it. Thank you for being here. This has been Straight Shot Politics.